What's up, guys? JT Postman here, and we are back with another episode of our Let's Talk NHL series. And in this video, I want to talk about the contract extension to Florida Panthers forward Reilly Smith and the Jonathan Bernier trade to the Anaheim Ducks. Now, I wanted to do these two specific things in this video because in another video that you guys will see right after this one, I want to talk about the contract extensions to 4 other players. So I kind of wanted to divide it up. So I'll talk about these two transactions in this video, and then I'll get to the other 4 in the other video. So first up, the Reilly Smith contract extension. Now, I like this extension, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I do like Reilly Smith. He was great for the Panthers in the playoffs and during the regular season. I think he had like a 25-goal regular season, around 50 points, and in the playoffs, he was their best player pretty much. So Reilly Smith had a great year, a career year, but I'm not a huge fan of it because I don't think he's going to match it. I don't think he's going to be consistent with it. I think he had a great year, but I just don't see him doing it again. You know, Reilly Smith, he always had the potential to be a great, second or third line scoring player, but I don't know if you can count on him to be a consistent 25-goal guy. Point per game in the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I think $5 million a year for the next 5 years, I just think it's too much. I think if Reilly Smith comes back next year and scores like 20 goals, 40 points, and let's say the Panthers make it to the second round and they play 12 games in the playoffs and he gets 6 points, then it's not worth $5 million. And I think that could happen. So I like that they extended him. I like Reilly Smith, but I do think it's too much. I think if they stuck more around $4 million, or I think $3.5–4 million, he was a steal, but above that, I think they're overpaying a little bit. The Panthers are just throwing around money this offseason, getting guys like Jason Demers, Reilly Smith, signing James Reimer, Keith Yandel. They're extending Aaron Ekblad. They've had a busy offseason, so I like it because Reilly Smith is a good player, but I don't see him consistently putting up seasons like he did this year, so I don't know if it's completely worth it for the Florida Panthers, but Panthers fans, let me know what you think of the extension. Now to the Jonathan Bernier trade, and I'll get one thing out of the way quick. This trade wasn't a standalone trade. Like, it wasn't like the Maple Leafs contacted the Ducks today and were like, hey, do you want Jonathan Bernier? The Ducks were like, oh, sure, we'll give you this draft pick. That wasn't how it went. Jonathan Bernier was actually supposed to be in the Frederik Andersen trade, and I knew that the trade, it was a solid trade, but it seemed kind of incomplete at the time because the picks the Maple Leafs gave up weren't the greatest, and it was almost kind of like, well, it is kind of a steal for the Maple Leafs in a way, but now it makes more sense. The reason that Bernier wasn't included in the trade at the time was because the Maple Leafs had to pay Jonathan Bernier his his signing bonus, his $2 million signing bonus on July 1st. So the Ducks were waiting for the Maple Leafs to pay that and then bring in Jonathan Bernier. So the conditional pick, I think it's going to be a 5th rounder, just because it's going to be a later pick because he was supposed to be in the original trade. So it was supposed to be Bernier, a 1st and a 2nd for Andersen, but they had to trade Bernier down the road. But because the Ducks, it is a 2017 pick, and the Ducks don't have a 6th or 7th round pick in 2017, so I'm guessing it's a 5th. And I don't know what the condition is. They haven't released that yet, as far as I know. We probably won't know for a while. The condition of the James Reimer trade, like those draft picks, we didn't even know until like the second round of the playoffs that the condition was if the Sharks made it to the Cup or something, that the pick was better, or that they got an additional pick. I forget what it was. But yeah, so it's hard to judge this deal as a standalone deal because obviously Bernier for a draft pick, it's a solid deal for Anaheim. They traded away Andersen, so they traded away his cap hit, and Anaheim's already in pretty good financial. They're in a pretty good situation financially, so they don't have to worry about the cap hit. It's only for another year. And because the Maple Leafs paid the $2 million signing bonus on the 1st, the Ducks only have to pay $2.15 million for Bernier this year. They didn't. It's not like a salary retention. They still take on his $4 million cap hit, but the Ducks themselves only have to pay Bernier $2 million. So, that's a positive, I guess, for them. But the negative parts of this deal is that Bernier, I don't know if because Bernier is a very odd goaltender because he's had terrible years the past 2 seasons, and it's not even, I can't even blame the Maple Leafs roster for some of the goals that Bernier has let up. He's let up so many fluky goals. You can make like a bloopers video of just Jonathan Bernier alone, including that one where he like spit on a linesman or something as he was skating by. Or no, it wasn't a linesman. It was like an ice maintenance person was skating by the bench, and he spit, and it hit him on the way by. That was hilarious. I mean, that just added to Bernier's highlight reel, basically. But he's let in some bad goals, but I don't think he's a terrible goalie. I mean, he had a decent end of the season after James Reimer was traded, but I don't think he's fit to be a starter, obviously. But he's also a goalie that I don't see fitting well into a backup role. I don't see Jonathan Bernier as a backup goaltender, like a career backup goalie. I don't see Bernier from now until the time he's 35, 36, 37 years old being a career backup. I just don't see it. I don't know if he has the potential to be a starter anymore, but I still think he can play 30, 40 games on a good team. And that's the thing. I'm interested to see how he plays in front of a team like Anaheim, or behind a team like Anaheim. Obviously a lot better than Toronto was this past season. So with good players in front of him, we'll see how he performs. Now, I mean, if you look at the total trade, Anderson for Bernier, a first and a second, it makes a lot more sense. I mean, the Maple Leafs, they give up 2 decent picks, and the Ducks, they get back a first and a second round pick and a backup goalie for their starting goalie, and now they have John Gibson who can fill that starting role. So it's a pretty good deal for the Ducks. But the only big negative is that they can't lose Bernier to the expansion draft this upcoming offseason, like next offseason, because he only has 1 year left on his deal. So that's going to expire. And one of the rules to the expansion draft is that players that will expire, players that are going to be UFAs right after the expansion draft, they can't be taken. They're automatically protected. So that's a negative. So they can't lose Bernier to the expansion draft. So that means, because you can only protect one goaltender, I'm pretty sure you can only protect one goalie. Pretty sure that's one of the rules. So if that's the deal, then they have to protect Bernier, and that exposes John Gibson. So unless they can work out like an extension with Bernier before the season ends, if they can try to sign him to an extra year so that he is available to be taken in the expansion draft, or they trade him to a team for another goalie who has more than 1 year left on his deal, that's interesting. Goaltenders, they're one of those, it's one of those positions teams are going to get hurt in the expansion draft. Teams like Pittsburgh, if they can't trade Fleury, it's going to be tough. A team like Florida, I didn't even think about this, because the Panthers, maybe they protect Reimer instead of Luongo in the expansion draft after this upcoming season. I don't know. But Luongo and Reimer, one of those goalies is going to be left unprotected, and I guarantee you one of them is going to be taken. So we'll see how that works. Maybe they signed Reimer to that extension, knowing that Luongo, maybe they know already that they're leaving him to the expansion draft. We'll see, but I think it is a decent acquisition for Anaheim. Bernier, he's not a veteran goalie. He's not a great goalie, but he's decent. I think with a good team in front of him, I think he can play a lot better than he did in Toronto. When you have one of those days where you're just constantly making mistakes, and things just aren't going your way. It seems like Bernier had that all season long last year. He just couldn't generate any kind of confidence or anything. It was just a terrible, just bad season. I think with a good team in front of him, if he can gain that confidence in Anaheim, I think he can be a good goalie. But, we'll just have to wait and see. So Anaheim fans, let me know what you think of that acquisition of Jonathan Bernier. How many games do you think he'll play? Because Gibson, he's still a young goalie, and he hasn't proven yet that he can play, 50-plus games a year, so, or even 60-plus. So Bernier, he could get a decent amount of games. So let me know what you guys think, how well he'll do in Anaheim, and I'll see you guys in the next video.